Meet PitchDB, the ultimate platform for speakers looking to make their mark on podcasts, conferences, and media outlets. PitchDB provides access to over 3 million platforms, ensuring you find the perfect avenue for your message. With AI integrations, your bios and pitches are tailored uniquely to each opportunity, giving you the edge you need. Join now at pitchdb.com.
Welcome to Your Brand Amplified, the podcast where we interview marketers, publicists, and brands to learn their stories, what makes them tick, and tips and tricks that make a difference. I am so thrilled today to have Greg Mohr, Franchise Maven, on the show. Greg, I've had a couple people talk about franchises over, we've had over 300 episodes. So it's not very often, but I'm really seeing a lot of people are mid-career, right? They're ready for their what next, and they're seeing that franchises are a really viable opportunity. So I'm really excited to hear about your experience and what you do to help people.
Thank you, Annika, and very, very kind of you to have me on your show today. What I do for people. So, first of all, couple of the biggest questions people ask: how much do you charge? Okay, I'm free. Okay, franchise consultants are generally free. I work with about 500 different franchisors. They pay me a referral fee if you decide to invest in one of the franchises I introduce you to. So we'll get that out of the way quick. A couple other questions that people ask me all the time is that, Anika, when you and I are driving around town, we see the McDonald's, we see the Taco Bells, Supercuts, Great Clips, Meineke Mako. We see the brick and mortar franchises. So what people don't really realize is how many different franchises are out there. So a lot of people come to me and they say, I don't have $1 million to invest. I don't want to do it full time necessarily. So when you're talking about the people that are in mid-career, some of those people that are mid-career may not want to leave their careers just yet. There are many franchises out there where you can do it semi-absentee, 10 to 15 hours a week. You keep your day job, you keep your other business, and you don't need $1 million because those brick and mortar franchises, they are a little bit on the expensive side for the investment, $300,000-$400,000 on up for that. But the services industry is one where it's around $150,000 investment, still can do semi-absentee, still great money, but those are essential services that people need all the time. So what I do is I help people decide and come to kind of figure out which franchise is right for them. And not only that, but if franchising is really right for you to begin.
Yeah. Well, how the heck did you get into the world of franchising in the first place?
Okay, Anika, we're going to have to go into the Wayback Machine.
Okay, let's do it.
I'll keep it short, though. So back in high school, most of us in high school, when we were in there back in the 70s, kind of dating myself there, we went to work for fast food places. Mine just happened to be Taco Bell. I don't know why.
I also worked there in high school in Kansas, my senior year. So
there you go. So that's what we did. It's a great experience for people to do it. But I happened to actually work for a master franchisor for Taco Bell. She owned about 50 different Taco Bells throughout the Woodland, California, Sacramento, California area. So that was my first foray into franchising. I helped her build her restaurants up, ended up managing a lot of them for her. Love the process because you step into any one you want, always the same theme, always, step-by-step procedure. So fast forward 30 years later, after a couple careers in restaurant management and microelectronic circuit engineering, owning a couple businesses, private businesses myself, along with another engineer, got out of the corporate world. And I'd actually owned, a friend of mine and I, we'd actually bought a dry cleaners, storage units, and rental properties while we were in engineering together, all private businesses. That was a real challenge. Didn't know a thing about dry cleaning. Who knows? Who knows about dry cleaning? You take it, you close in, and they come out great. You're happy.
Yeah.
Well, we had to run it, so we had to figure out all that ourselves. Bit of a challenge. Doable, but a bit of a challenge. So when I got out of the corporate world, I said, private business was nice, but I sold all my shares to my partner. And I said, I got to go back into that franchising thing. That was really cool. How do I go about doing that? No clue. Again, no clue how to start. Started clicking everywhere. That looks good. That looks good. I had 20 people calling me up, franchise people all over the place calling me up. Finally got a hold of a franchise consultant who knew they existed first place. And that team, he and she together, they made it very clear. Simplified the process, made it a lot easier. So that's how I got into doing that.
Yeah. That's just truly fascinating. I love that you learned about this when you were in high school and it was still like percolating in the back of your mind that this could be a business for the future.
That is correct. And, I left out one part. I also got not only did I get a degree in electrical engineering, but I got a degree an MBA degree. And that's the one that really ruined the corporate career. Because I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that just ruined my corporate career. It was all over at that point in time. So yeah, the franchise thing was always there. And when I started going out there and I started reading Robert Kiyosaki's book and saying, there's got to be something better than this 9 to 5, in my case, 7 to 5. So that's where everything got started and just took off from there.
Amazing. So you talked about there are different kinds of franchises and some could be service-based businesses. Now, I know I read a lot about, because I work with workforce development and education sectors and helping them with marketing and communications messages. And I know that there is such a lack, right? There are not enough skilled workers going into those fields. So that is something that we'll always need. We'll always need a plumber, an electrician, people to come help us do things around the house. So that you'd say that that's one sector that's booming, or that is a really good one for people to possibly buy into at this point?
Absolutely. Before the COVID incident there, we had quite a few trends that went through in franchising. Pizzas, yogurt was just an amazing trend there for a while. I had yogurt franchises coming up all over the place. And finally, my lending people said, no more yogurts. They're not doing so good. So after the COVID thing, it kind of changed a little bit. So we had a shift, and people are more looking for things that wouldn't be impacted by economic downturns, by, the COVID, things like that. So they started looking at and being more interested the past couple of years, 2-3 years, more interested in essential services, HVAC, heating and air conditioning, your plumber, your electricians, your tutoring, your senior care, your health services. All those are things that never went away and never will go away, especially with the essential services that broke. It's got to be fixed. It's got to be fixed now. And boy, you're going to want that heating and air conditioning depending on where you live. You're going to want that going. You want your toilet to flush and you want your lights to come on. So those are kind of important stuff.
And you also mentioned tutoring, and that's really interesting because my daughter during the pandemic, she said, I want to learn more. She was actually a really good learner online, but she wanted to get more. She didn't feel like she was getting enough from her teachers. So she took it upon herself to find two online programs to tutor her in French. And during that time, she was doing maybe 3 days a week of extra tutoring. And now she still does it once a week with the same person, the same woman who is a native French speaker, and they just have a conversation for an hour a week. But it's really helped her pronunciation. It's helped her just have that extra edge, I think, in her classes, because she's still taking it at her high school. But I never even thought about that as a franchise. So I guess my next question is, you buy a franchise, but you still have to staff it, right? Especially if you're a service-based business and you don't have that expertise. So how do you find the right people? Are you buying an existing business? Maybe are you buying a franchise that already existed in this space? Or how does all of that work?
Great question, Nika. You can go either route. Most of the time what I work with people is they're investing into a franchise system where they haven't got a territory in that area yet. So it's going to be a new startup in your area, not necessarily a new franchise, but a new startup in your area. We do have resales of franchises where you can buy into existing ones. Those don't happen quite very often. Once you built up your franchise and you want to go sell it, it's very easy to sell an existing franchise. You tell the franchisor. First thing the franchisor does is he tells existing franchisees around your area that you're up for sale. Most of the time when you're doing really good, another franchisee will pick it up. Well, I don't have necessarily a very big list of those. So one thing to think about, your exit plan, is that people will pick up that franchise, mostly other franchisees, but I've got a lot of people that would like to get into that. So back to your question again, with the original type franchise, there are many franchises out there that have like 100 or more franchisees, 200, 300 franchisees. So they're big franchises, top 5% in the U.S., but they just don't have one in your area yet. Mm-hmm. So you're starting up that new one. So you will staff it. So what you're going to look for there is why you're going through that process of investigating that franchise, whether it's with me or whether it's by yourself. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, that's fine. Always, whenever you're looking to do a franchise, talk to other franchisees. It's especially nice when you have many different franchisees in many different cities, so you can go over that staffing issue, because we have staffing issues throughout the country. So now if you start talking to other franchisees, how are you doing with staffing? How is that franchisor helping you find those people? What process do they have? What you really want to look for is what process does that franchisor have for helping you find not only employees, but the best employees. So you should be getting help from the franchisors, and you should be getting information from the existing franchisees before you invest in that franchise and how they went about doing it. Are they having issues with it? If they are, how are they overcoming them?
Yeah. So you can really dig into the information before you get into the business. So you're kind of going, unlike traditional entrepreneurship, where often people have an idea, they might not do all of the market research. They might do enough that they think that they can go ahead and start and then they can just jump in. You really get the time to investigate, make sure it's a market fit, that you'll have the consumers, but you'll also have the employees, and you'll be able to monetize, not just, oh, let me just throw all this money in and get into it.
Yeah. Hope for the best.
Yeah. And you talked about financing a little bit. So I'd love to hear more about that. So if somebody doesn't have the money up front, you have different models that they can work with for financing, because that's always, of course, being a bit small business, being an entrepreneur, financing is one of the hardest barriers to overcome.
That's correct. That is. And I think we're getting into a private loan business. It's probably a little bit more of a challenge than a franchise type business. So 2 different ways you can go on that. You can use other people's money, which a lot of my investors love using other people's money. Great way to do it. Or you can use your own money. Yes. So if you want to use your own money, then what you'll be looking for is a self-directed 401k or a self-directed IRA. You roll over your 401k from a previous employer, not your existing one, into a self-directed 401k. You develop a C corporation and you just invest from a self-directed point of view. You invest your money into your C corporation. We have people that can do all that for you. Pretty easy process. If you want to use other people's money, let's just look at the SBA loans. That's what people ask about most of the time. A simple services industry, then you probably just get an easy SBA Express loan for that. Generally speaking, $150,000, $200,000. We can get it done in a month. You put down about $20,000. You get the loan. Pretty simple, with some conditions being met. One of the conditions being that you have a decent credit score. You got to have that. Franchises are easy to get funding for. Now, I've got people that do that all the time. If anybody needs anybody that can do funding for franchises, just let me know. I'll send you over their information. Simple as that. The franchises have that proven business model. They've been in business for a long time. So that part of what the SBAs are looking at is already taken care of. Now they just want to know, on the individual basis, what is your credit score? You have a good credit score on that. The other thing that they'll look at, and the franchisor will look at, is your net worth as compared to what the franchise total investment is to make it certain you fit. That's one of the things that I help people with, is looking at franchises that fit within their net worth. You can do that yourself, just a little bit of work, but that's one of the things I look at. So I know that you're already qualified for that. If you're getting into a brick and mortar, then a 7A loan is probably what you're going to be looking at for SBA, 20% down on something like that, depending on what it is. But all in all, simple, not difficult at all, as long as you've got a decent credit score and you've got the net worth to back up your investment.
And I have one more question about, because thank you for helping us untangle that a little bit. But you mentioned brick and mortars versus, and when we were talking about service industry, we weren't really talking about brick and mortars as much. I know, a few decades ago, you needed to have a brick and mortar if you had a plumbing or service-based business as well. But are you seeing now that a lot of those are just, you buy the franchise and you don't have to have an office for people to go to, because really they're just calling a number and having somebody come out to provide the service?
Absolutely correct, Anika. So what you can start with is you can start from working from home on a lot of these, the service industry franchises on that. Then you'll probably work into a small office, because at some point in time, you're going to have many employees and you may want to get the employees together. You may want to use your house, but you may not want to use your house with everybody. Right. So you have a small office in that. But most of them, since you are just fielding phone calls, and actually a lot of these franchises, the franchisors are getting those phone calls from new clients. They'll get the call first. So you're not even going through and doing the phone calls. You just look on your schedule, see what needs to be next. You go out, call upon them, tell them what you can do, and then you have a crew do it. So starting from home, very simple, small office, some of a little Regis office, where you just kind of office sharing or something like that is all that's needed on a regular basis. Okay,
fantastic. And you talked about trends a little bit too, how there's a big yogurt trend, and there are different trends that come up with franchising. I know one that I've read about and I've seen pop up all over town are workout places, right? So Pilates, or is it Mayweather gyms, or different kinds of gyms popping up all over. And I've also read stories about them, how some of those, I imagine obviously these aren't people you probably work with, but some of them over-franchised. And so it wasn't a great model. I forget what the specific company is behind those brands, but it was like the Pilates and the yoga and some of those centers where they were too many franchises in the same area. And then also the business model, you had to oversell every single class just to break even. So how do you, as a franchise expert, make sure Or, how do you make sure that what you're recommending to people, like how do you do your due diligence, I guess, to make sure that all of your recommendations are really sound?
Perfect question, Anika. So what we do is, since I've been at it for a long time, I've got a lot of friends that are franchise consultants. We get together on a regular basis. We talk about what our franchisees are hearing from the franchisors and from what our candidates are hearing from the franchisees within the franchisors network on that. So we have a good feel for it. We also meet with the franchisors on a regular basis, and we'll see what they're doing. So if I'm looking at a franchise and they've got some of the information, well, you may not have as a consumer or as a regular person going out there, we'll have a little bit more information. So if we see that they have 500 units sold, 100 units open, then that's kind of a red flag for us. They're selling more quickly than they're opening them up. So once they get past a certain point, we really want them to take a step back from adding on new franchisees and open those locations up before they sell.
Okay.
We also want to take a look at how many employees does that franchisor have compared to how many franchisees they have. We want to look and see that they're being taken care of. The franchisees are being taken care of. If they have, 10 employees and they've got, 500 franchises sold, they really need to put on some more staff. They need to do it quick.
Yeah.
These are the things that we look for within their systems itself. We all talk to each other on a regular basis. The organization that I belong to, the IFPG, which is the International Franchise Professionals Group, we get together on regular meetings, regional meetings once a year. We talk about them. The IFPG keeps a real close eye on the franchisors too, to make certain that everything is staying legal, ethical, and moral, and they're complying with all the franchise rules on that, because we're real sticklers for those kind of details. I also have a couple of franchise attorneys that I work with on a regular basis, so they keep me informed as well. If they're seeing things out there in the industry, a certain franchise, they'll let me know that stay away from that one. I don't want you bringing to me anybody from that one, because that one's not doing so good. So we got a lot of good information from different sources where I can filter through it. And as I have you, Anika, so I introduce you to a franchisor and you're talking to them, some may slip through the cracks and you'll tell me that, you're hearing this or that, and I'm like, well, that's not quite kosher. Let's take a look at that. Let's take a step back from that one. It happens very rarely, but on occasion I might hear something from my people that they have heard from their franchisees that they talk to, which is why I encourage people to talk to as many franchisees as possible. Mm-hmm. And if I hear anything that's a red flag, I'll just say, nope, cut that one out, move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. That is very helpful. And I also love the fact that it's not just one and done. You're not just working with somebody and then you help them get the deal and then you just leave them high and dry. You're reaching back out to them. You're making sure that you are, helping them through this process because you have been a successful franchise owner as well as being a franchise expert.
That's correct. I can always go back and check on it, see how my folks are doing. And sometimes I'll lose track of them. They'll keep busy and I'll lose track of them. I had one gentleman I lost track of, and then he called me up 3 years later. And I'm like, he left a message. I need to talk to you. It's like, what did I do? Did something go wrong? He built his franchise up and wanted to sell it and get into a new franchise.
Oh.
So It's like, right on. And then I just put a couple into an electrical services franchise. They were looking for a brewery, and they ended up in an electrical services franchise. How about that? Huh?
Okay.
They were real estate people. Real estate people just love, expanding their investments, and they thought a brewery would be perfect. And we started looking at different things, learning about them. And they just said electrical services. But it was pretty funny because the wife was in the background the whole time. She was running the rental properties. And I just had a husband on the phone. He's like, okay, we're going to do this. Am I absentee on that? And the wife steps up at the last minute and says, we're not going to run that semi-absentee. I'm going to do that. I can do that business. So I checked back with them here recently. That was a few months ago. And this year they're on track to be Rookies of the Year in their franchise. So it's really cool to hear that kind of thing when I get feedback from my folks. But yes, direct answer to your question, I stay on top of them, see how they're doing, make sure everything's going well.
Yeah. And when you become a franchisee, do you get a playbook of how to run marketing campaigns, how to run advertising in your local market so that you can actually get the clientele in?
Absolutely, Nico. One of the things that you're going to be asking about, one of the things you're going to be looking for, one of the things they're going to teach you. The main theme on all of that is that you're never wondering, what do I do next?
Yeah.
So you have that playbook. So the franchisor, as you go through the process, and I'll be going through the process of investigating the franchises with you. If you're a DIYer and want to do it yourself, you can check out my book. It'll walk you through everything on that, the whole process to do it. But if you're working with me, then we're going to make certain we go through that process itself and we're going to talk to the franchisor, or you're going to, and then we're going to get back together and talk about it. They're going to go over their marketing. Well, how to advertise, who to advertise to, not only marketing to clients, but marketing to get your employees as well, how to do that. Then you're going to follow up with the franchisees and verify, validate all that information the franchisor told you. Are they doing it? Is it working? So you should have that step-by-step playbook. All you got to do is write the check.
Yeah.
You pay for it. They've got everything else. They've already gone through it. They've made the mistakes before. They've got everything on that as well. So that's why you would pick a franchise over a private business, is because they've done it all before. You got to pay for it. You got the franchise fee, generally $50,000, give or take. You got the ongoing royalties between 5 and 10%. You got to pay for it, but you get it. So kind of a give and take there between private and franchise.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you mentioned your book, because I wanted to talk about your books and have you just talk through why you decided to write and what somebody can learn from one of them. And has that been a great marketing tool for you? Like, because you also, of course, have to market to bring people into your business.
Absolutely correct. It's been an absolutely great marketing tool. I wrote it because after doing this for about 10 years, so I wrote it 2 years ago, I've been doing this for about 10 years. I had a lot of the same questions that people kept asking me. I'm all about education. Franchising is not right for everybody. I'm not going to try and convince you it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, because for some people it's not. Simple as that. It's all about education. So I was getting the same questions. I still do, over and over and over. So I thought, why not just write a book?
Yep.
Put all those questions down, take you through the whole process of investigating the franchise, put in some real world examples of people that I work with, and put that out there. So that's my reasoning for it. It's just to get people educated on that. It made it to the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. I have no idea why. Amazing. It was kind of amazing. Yeah, it was so cool. So as far as marketing goes, that was a huge marketing thing.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, if you're out there and you listen to all Anika's podcasts, you've got lots of great podcasts out there. One thing to take from all those is that if you write a book, even if they're the people who've written books in your field, it doesn't make any difference. They haven't heard it from your point of view. So your point of view is going to be different than everybody else's. So if you're out there, you're in the field, write a book, tell people about it. Great marketing tool. People love it. Great credibility when you get out there and doing that. But I use that. That is how I get my marketing done and my clients done. That's really what I've been doing on there. And then you just get on podcasts from absolutely wonderful people who are very successful at podcasting, like Anika, and get your name out there, but mostly do it in the form of education. Yeah. Not trying to push it on anybody. So I got my book on my website. I've got 7 mistakes to avoid when you're looking into it on my website. I've got matrix of business types, due diligence process, how to go through that. Wow. All step by step. So if you do it yourselfer, you want to do it yourself, go forth and prosper. I've got it all out there for you. I'm all about education. If you want some help, give me a call. Simple as that.
Well, there are 2 things that occur to me while you're saying all of this. One is you just hit the nail on the head. You have to educate people. It's about helping people learn and providing more value to them than you're trying to get from them, right? It's because the more you give, the more you are a servant leader, if you will, then the more you're going to get back, because then people will know, oh, I can work with this person because they're already willing to give me this information, whether I work with them or not. And if I work with them, they're going to help me through these pain points that I'm going to probably have on my own. The second thing is, I feel like you do not have any imposter syndrome whatsoever. So many of us go through imposter syndrome when we're switching careers, trying to move into a new field. But you are so very clear on who you are and your message and how to go about, and the fact that you do have this knowledge that you can help people learn. So kudos to you, because that is hard to do. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you'd have some imposter syndrome that we just don't see, but you're I hope everybody's watching this episode instead of just listening to it, because Greg, you have the best expressions also.
Cool. So here I was. I was a restaurant manager, already pretty good with people. That's good. But then after 15 years as an engineer. Okay. So going from engineering, and now you've got to go into basically sales on that. So my first franchise that I went to was my first and only franchise, School of Mitchell Telecommunications Consulting, where I had to go out and do sales. Okay. So I pretty much sucked at that. It was pretty funny because in engineering, I get the data, show everybody the data. Either the data was good, the data was bad. They said yes, they said no, cool, we're good to go. Go collect more data. So I get out there to do my sales pitch with the businesses, show them my data. Here's my data. You switch over to this telecommunications thing, I'm going to save you this much money. We'll split the difference on that. You're good to go. What do you think? No. Okay, cool. I left. Then a schoolie who trained me, I was the trainer, and the head thing, he said, everybody's going to say no the first time. You don't take no for an answer. This is what you do when they say no. It's like, I had no clue. So I got books. I got books and I do. So Zig Ziglar, I got Zig Ziglar's books. So as what you just said previously, you help as many people get what they want, you'll get what you want. So I read a lot of the different sales books, different people and how they did it. I like Zig. He's got a good way of doing it. Sales is something you do with somebody, not to somebody. So that's where I kind of got all my formula. I said, it's just, these people don't know anything about franchising, generally speaking. Some do when they come to me on that. Some just don't. So it's like, don't try and push it on them. Don't try and shove it down their throat that this is the greatest thing, you should do it. Just educate the people and then let them decide. It's a lot easier to me since I wasn't ever very good at sales anyway. Wow. So I just said, I just got to follow what these guys are doing. They've done it before. They're great people. Zig, wonderful Christian person who just likes to help people. So I said, that's going to be me.
Wow. Okay. So you did have a learning curve that you had to go through too. So thank you. We all do, but sometimes, you just come across just as very like you have the spark inside. I can tell you really love what you do. You're offering so many resources. So it seems like, wow, this is somebody who hasn't had some of those same trials that everybody else sometimes has to go through. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. So educate yourself is the name of the game. If there's something that you don't feel comfortable in, or look at the best books, read all the material out there, learn from the experts, and get comfortable with it, and get comfortable with the uncomfortable parts, right? Until you get good at them.
That's the biggest challenge when I was going out there getting in front of people, is getting comfortable doing things that I was never comfortable with doing before. You could either do that or you hire somebody else to do it for you.
Yeah.
One of the two.
So let's talk about your book again, though, because you said, how did you get on the Wall Street Journal list? That's amazing. And that's not, I'm sure, easy to do. Did you have a publisher? Did you self-publish? What was that process like when you decided to write the book?
Yes, I got a publisher, Bestseller Publishing with Rob Kosberg. Oh. He helped me with that. That, I would say, writing that book was the biggest challenge of my life so far. And Rob's team really pushed me to my limit on that. They were real sticklers for all sorts of details. I thought it'd be pretty simple just to put it down a few chapters, write a few things like that. We're good to go. And they're like, nope, I need some more detail there, a little less detail here. Okay, let's go back and let's rearrange it. So he was the publisher for it. I was real good at math and stuff in school. English was not one of my strong points. The guy from Brazil in college that got better grades in English than I did.
Oh, no.
And I never heard the end of it from him. Never heard the end. He just laughed his head off on that. So my skills at writing sentences were so great. So having that publisher there to turn my ideas and my sentences into coherent sentences that people could actually follow was a good plus on that. So they really helped me with that. And it took a good portion of a year, a little over a year, to really put that whole thing together. And I think that was a big help with getting that out there. And then he helped me with a lot of the marketing and advertising on that one as well. So I think he was a big help, probably instrumental in getting me out there to the Wall Street Journal list on that, because of all the things he made me do and his team made me do to get that book just right. And then to help me with the marketing on that one as well was just outstanding.
Fantastic. Yeah, because I know that all of us have a book inside that's dying to get out, right? But it's hard to know who to trust with do you self-publish? Do you go with this person who says they can get you to this, status? Or there are so many people out there who do that work. There are so many people who do every kind of work. So knowing somebody that actually worked for, like, you are now giving them your trust, right? And so now by you mentioning them on my podcast, I'm giving this company my trust as well, because I'm asking, how did they get you onto Wall Street Journal? So I love that, because that's also power of these conversations that we have, is I get to learn new things from you, new resources, new tools, new ways of thinking about things, reminders to, go read that book and that book again. So Greg, what does a typical day look like for you right now? And where do you see yourself going with Franchise Maven?
So a typical day. So one of the reasons why I got into franchising and not getting away from the corporate world is so I could have a day that I wanted to do what I want when I wanted it.
Yeah.
So my typical day is first thing in the morning, get up, have a cup of coffee, check the emails, take the dogs for a long walk, come back, have breakfast, then I sit down, start going through and start working with people. So I'll have people really they'll schedule time on my calendar. So I'll just go through my calendar, and then I'll have different people that I will talk to on a regular basis about franchising. At the same time, I have also franchisors that I'm going to be meeting with on a regular basis. So I keep track of what's going on in the franchise world itself, as far as when new ones are coming up and how they're doing. So I keep track of those. And then I take a break. I got my schedule is down just so much. So I've got 4 dogs here that so I will go from like probably 8:30 to 10:30. So if I go past 10:30, the dogs will get up and start walking around. And they're like, dude, it's 10:30. You always take a break at 10:30. Let's go. It's pretty funny. So, I'll have it all broken down into segments where I'll be working throughout that. But I always like to take time out, get out, take the dogs for a walk. I live out in the country, so
nice.
We don't have to worry about roads or people or anything. But it's all about just not only helping the people that are coming to looking for franchising, but then learning more about each one of the franchise systems that we have, or each one of the franchises that we have in our system, so that I can present them a little more clearly and really get to know the people who are running the franchises on a more personal level, so I can find out their backstory, what brought them into franchising. So I put that all together. And where am I going? I just keep helping people on that. Eventually, I may not do it anymore, but I've got my schedule broken down so much between having fun and going out and working in the gardens and taking the dogs out and doing the business, that it's a great work-life balance. So if you're looking to get into a great work-life balance, and that's the sort of thing you got to think about, is how are you going to break your day up? We do a lot of gardening. I've got bees, chickens, turkeys, ducks, geese.
Oh my gosh.
Rabbits. So yeah, a little bit of everything.
Well, you're living my dream life. So I'll definitely when I'm ready to move to that phase, I will definitely come talk to you about that.
Come on over. We'll put you to work.
So my dogs they're just waiting patiently for me to take them out as well. So I understand that schedule. They keep us accountable to our schedules and taking breaks. Gosh, I know I had a couple of other questions. Well, I guess I'll just wrap it up, because I want people to go to your website. I want them to read your book. And I know that you and I will have further conversations. So, Greg, what is the best way for people to find out about you? Is it through your website, LinkedIn, to get your resources, your free downloads, find out about your book?
You go to my website, franchisemaven.com. That's franchise, M-A-V as in Victor, E-N.com. And my book is right there on the front page. If you want a PDF version, just pick in there. All you got to do is just give me your email so I can put you on my email list. It's the only thing I ask for. If you want to actually pay for it, and fine, go on Amazon. You can find it on Amazon. Pay for it too. But you get the PDF version for free, along with all sorts of other information. Email me at greg@franchisemaven.com, or just pick up the phone and give me a call at 361-772-6401.
Nice. Easy to reach. I like that. I did want to ask, you have a lot of certificates and awards behind you. Are those for franchising? Are they for a variety of things?
Okay, up here is my book, my Wall Street Journal book.
Nice.
On that one. These are, so back in college, Engineering Honor Society, Business Honor Society, Golden Key Honor Society. These are the awards for all the different things I've done in life: swimming, running, working, school things. These up here are, you would think I was a wrestler, but no, I'm not a wrestler. That was for putting the most people into franchising, that way up there in the middle. That was my running one. I was a good running champion, cross country and track back in high school. So I did that. So people just keep giving me stuff.
Awesome. Well, I love your energy and how you're helping people, and how you're also balancing your life and able to just really enjoy where you are. So thank you for sharing your message with us today. And Greg, do you have a favorite quote, poem, mantra, family motto, verse that is something that helps you get through every day?
I would say that one thing I tell people is that when you talk, you can only tell somebody something you already know. When you listen, you may learn something new. So I like listening to people.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Podcasts.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you. I know that I learned a lot from listening to you today, and I know my audience will as well. All right.
I appreciate you having me, Nika. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's watching or listening to this episode. I will be back again tomorrow with another amazing guest to help make your life and your decisions a little bit easier with their expertise. Want more? Check out amplifywithannika.com or follow me on socials at amplifywithannika.